What's up? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. My name is Morrow, your storyteller for today, and with me I have some more RPG horror stories. I'm still gonna be a disembodied head for a little bit, so I hope it's okay. Long story short, I talked about it last video, but basically I got sick. There was a cold front coming into the East Coast, and your boy doesn't have cold resistance. Unfortunately, I left my cold resistance underwear. Actually, I don't know where I have my cold resistance underwear. I think Mary took them. I'm gonna need to have a stern talk with Mary about this. But either way, let's get some RPG horror stories for today. Min-Maxer gets the literal power to summon a god to fight for him. There have been some stories that I've read that sound ridiculous, and the only question I have is why? Why isn't Min-Maxer allowed to get the power to summon a literal god to fight for him? Playing a Spelljammer version of D&D. We are a party of 5, most of us mostly focusing on role-playing. But one of the players, let's call him Jake, clearly tries to make the strongest build possible. Nothing wrong with that on its own, but it's been an issue as he clearly tried to outclass everyone else whenever a role is involved. Jake is also the type of player to only ever stay in character whenever it's combat, and as soon as we're out of combat, they would just start talking about things going on in their life. We get into a mission where we have to go fight some elementals or an asteroid. The party stumbles upon a druid grove, and Jake secretly gets an amulet. The story continues if we all of a sudden have to fight a god. Okay, before I get into it, I just said it's getting chaotic. What do you mean by Jake secretly gets an amulet? What do you mean by that? Is the DM like helping Jake get a secret amulet, or they're rolling some sort of behind the scenes table or adding some sort of item to the character sheet that they're not supposed to have? What do you mean by they secretly get an amulet? And what is this amulet supposed to do? I don't want to assume that the DM is doing something in the background, but I mean, this was specifically mentioned, so I'm wondering if this has something to do with the DM. Are they working together? Are they in cahoots? What is the reason for this amulet? Maybe I'm just jumping the gun, but I feel like if this was mentioned, there's a reason why this mentioned. Why else would the poster be just mentioning it for no reason, you know? Fight went rather smoothly. Way too smoothly. The god revives and second harder phase begins. At this point, most people in the party are already down and out of spell slots. We managed to defeat him again. Guess what? A third even harder phase. In this version, we basically had to roll nat 20 to almost even hit the god. Well, lucky for us, the amulet has the power to summon a god as well that helps Jake out. With the help of this god, Red the god being the only one doing anything, we win the combat. And once again, I want to ask, why and how did Jake secretly get this amulet? This was specifically mentioned, and sadly I don't know where Jake is just able to summon this god. Is the DM working with Jake? Is this part of the backstory? Is this part of a thing? Is this something that was agreed on ahead of time? Is DM just favoring Jake for whatever reason? What is going on here? So we had to go through a fight where we basically had to wait for Jake to summon his god and win the fight for us. Sounds bad, right? Well, this is what happens next. For some needed backstory, my character is an axolotl ranger obsessed with frogs. A giant frog was teased in prior session, so I was really hyped to meet the frog. Now the god Jake someone wants us to go kill that frog. Note that this isn't a campaign that deals with extreme power levels. My character has received an arrow that deals +1 damage, our sorcerer gets a staff that triggers wild magic once per long rest, our artificer gets a bag of holding, and the rogue a dagger of +1. And then there's Jake with the power to summon a god now. Yes, that's a thing from now on. This, I'm sorry, but this is not a thing to just be like, well, I guess that happened. Ahaha. I feel like this is a concern. This is a concern we guys need to talk to the DM and figure out, hey DM, why does all the rest of us get like a, cool items, a dagger +1, cool, bag of holding, very useful, very handy, but artificers get that by default. Anyway, they can just pick their infusions whenever they create the character, so they can start with a bag of holding, which is a really useful item for the general party. But why is Jake starting off with an amulet that can summon gods? They receive the item secretly, so there was a purpose for the DM giving it to them specifically, giving it to them directly, and waiting for them to summon the item or summon the god from the necklace. What is happening behind the scenes? I feel like there needs to be some sort of a talk and a sit down about why is Jake getting a specific item. Is it because maybe Jake asked the DM or pestered the DM enough to receive something like this? And why now? And I mean, I have a lot of questions, dude. I have a lot of questions. I feel like there's just so many things that are unanswered. First of all, I feel like the most important thing we need to know is why is Jake receiving some sort of a secret item that lets him summon a god? Second, maybe it might be time to ask you, DM, why is Jake receiving better items than the rest of you guys receiving? I mean, a +1 dagger is cool and all, and an arrow of +1 is neat, but like that compared to summon a god, I feel like it's a very much a on purpose kind of thing. How come Jake receives a really cool item while the rest of you kind of have less cooler items? You know, it feels a little bit like there's a power imbalance. Either way, I hope you figure this out together and hope you get to have a sit down with a DM and talk about it and figure out why Jake is getting a super special item. Let's him summon a literal god to fight for him. I'm gonna get to the next story for today before I start questioning this further. I have so many questions, but I can't ask them all. I need to get to the next story for today. Edgelord player constantly goes against what the party wants. This story comes from a campaign I'm actually still part of, and the problem player has since been removed by a new player. The players in this campaign are me, Artificer, Fighter, Warlock, Cleric, and the problem player, Blood Hunter. At the start of the campaign, nothing was really off about the problem player. He did edgy things every now and then, but that's fine, because he's allowed to play as he wishes. However, the problems truly started with his real personality starting to show itself. Whenever he would talk to an NPC, he would always demand information from them, and if he didn't get it immediately, he would either threaten them with violence or just straight up use torture to get what he wanted. This also happened when he was capturing enemies that we wanted information from. Instead of asking questions and role-playing, he would say something like, "I take my knife and cut open my wrist and bleed my fire blood onto the person." Again, it's fine if someone plays a character like this, the kind of person who uses force to get what they want, but this happened all the time. Every time we need to interrogate or question someone, he would immediately escalate the situation by using violence or threatening the NPCs. There's nothing wrong if you want to play a little bit more like a to-the-point character, very direct. You know, you don't mince words or anything. You just want to get to the point and get done with it. And no-nonsense kind of guy, you know, that just casually takes out dagger, cuts open the hand, and bleeds molten blood on them or something. I don't know. It's weird, but I mean, hey, whatever fantasies, whatever you want to do, right? I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense. So blood hunters be a little more edgy. And there's nothing wrong with making a edgy character, especially if you're making it for fun. But there is such a point where you need to dull the edge a little bit, because otherwise it just becomes a messy situation for everybody, and it's not that fun if the character always approaches a situation every single time with some sort of like a brute force situation. Not everything has to be brute force, and there's time and place for everything, as well as room for other players to get involved in it. You don't have to be the only person that just brute forces ham fist your way into any situation possible. At times you gotta allow the rest of your party to try to do some different approaches. That's kind of the whole point of party cooperation. You can't brute force everything. Sometimes you need to let your party handle the situation in one way or the other. Either way, let's continue. One thing I had particular issues with was whenever we interacted with someone who was not a human or human-looking species in game, he would constantly make weird comments about them, like having a constant hate of dwarves to the point where it stopped feeling like a joke, because every time we interacted with a dwarf, he would say something to a degree of, "We should genocide all dwarves because they suck." Huh? Well, I would hate to be the dwarf whenever I interact with this specific PC, because holy hell, oh my god. Like, it's one thing to dislike dwarves because maybe they're too stubborn, or maybe they're too hardy, maybe they're too stuck in their own ways, you know, like I said, like too stubborn. They're stubborn like a mountain, they will not budge. But to just be like, "We should genocide all dwarves because they suck," whoa there, buddy. You know, it kind of makes me think of one particular person that wanted to genocide a particular group of people that had a funny mustache and a unique salute. It's a little bit 3 edgy 5 me, but let's continue. The moment where I genuinely got upset with him was on a mission we were given by a mysterious organization that we wanted to join. The goal was to destroy a temple with a magic ice bomb. The reason why is because the gods that were being worshipped there were actually being puppeted by the god of undeath. That's given him more worshippers and more power over the world. Me, Warlock, Cleric, and Fighter came up with the idea that we should do it at night to have as little casualties as possible. Blood Hunter then gets up, takes the ice bomb, and starts walking into the temple in broad daylight. I stop him and say, wait, what are you doing? We agreed to do it at night, remember? Yeah, I'm just going in and ask some questions about my past. Oh, okay, I guess. Blood Hunter then goes in and detonates the bomb, killing hundreds of people who were in the temple complex. His excuse for doing this was that he was just saving time. Wait, you just allowed him to just walk in because he wanted to quote unquote ask about the past? Why is it bringing a bomb with him? Why did you ask, hey, why do you have a bomb with you if you want to ask some questions? Shouldn't you just leave the bomb somewhere else in a safe location where, you know, you won't detonate it just for the sake of detonating it? I feel like this guy is being like on the edgy side of efficiency for the sake of just making his character be like that. But at the same time, it's also sort of just completely goes against what the rest of the party is going. I feel like the playstyle differences here, major playstyle differences that aren't being addressed, that I feel like should be addressed at some point, because literally the party wants one thing and now Edgelord man wants something else entirely. I was getting angry at this point because every time we try to do something or get something planned out, he just goes screw it and just does his own thing. He also did things out of game constantly that really made me mad. Every time I came up with a plan for us to follow in order to accomplish one of our goals, he would always say something like, nah, that won't work, or I don't think that's a very good plan, or what about X or Y, and then never gave any solution to the problem that he points out. Yeah, I think this is just a playstyle difference. You guys have one way you want to play, or at least you have your way that you want to play. And the Edgelord friend has a different playstyle entirely, or has a completely different thing he wants to do. Party wants to do A, B, and C, or at least you want to do A, B, and C. He wants to do X, Y, and Z. I feel like it's just a difference in playstyles, and at some point, somebody's gonna have to leave. Jumping forward to about the midpoint of the game, we're in the middle of a fight with a wizard after we try to steal 2 sentient magic rings from him. During the fight, me, Cleric, and Fighter all go down with Warlock in the backline firing Eldritch Blast, and Bloodhunter using wings from a homebrew ability that him and the DM discussed about beforehand. He then decides to fly away from the fight instead of helping us out. He is a melee focused class, and me and Cleric were mostly squishy casters. He could have helped us, but he doesn't. I get frustrated and say, of course he would. And he responds with, well, I don't want to get involved in Use's fight. After this, I started to have a genuine animosity towards both him and his character, and I didn't trust him or his judgment because of his selfish, self-motivated behavior. Okay, now this is not just a playstyle difference. This is indeed a problem, and I hope at this point DM steps in and tries to course correct this, because what we're seeing right now is basically this drift of this guy doesn't work well with the party. If he's just gonna abandon this party because he just doesn't, you know, his character just doesn't want to get involved and use this fight, dude, you're part of a party. If you're not being involved in the party, then why are you here in the first place? Why are you playing in this group in the first place? If you don't want to play with these people and you don't like the play styles and stuff, then leave. Clearly feels like there's a schism going on, but this guy just wants to play his way. It's his way or the highway, and doesn't want to play well with the party. The whole point of D&D, or really any TTRPG at this point, is to play well with the party. If you can't play well with the party, then what are you doing really? If you can't play with your party and you can't cooperate with the party and play as a team, then it kind of takes away the whole point of being in a party in the first place. It kind of takes away the whole point. Like, why is the guy even playing with this party in the first place? What's the point for him to even stay in this game if he is not going to be like a team player? I get you want to have a character that's more edgy and stuff. That's completely fine. You do whatever you want to do. But at the end of the day, you have to make sure you make it a character that's going to play well with the party. But if they don't, then it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. If you can't cooperate well with the party, you're not exactly going to be good for the game in general. So what is the point of this guy staying in the game at this point? My intuition was correct, however, because when we were in a flooded section of the Underdark to try and cure one of our party members of a disease that accelerates when magic is used, Bloodhunter decides to betray the party while we were in mid-conversation with a group of Triton elders who related to Cleric's backstory. While we are talking, Bloodhunter takes out his greatsword and swings for Fighter's head. At this point, my Artificer character had died, and I was now playing a Dragonborn Path of the Beast Barbarian. I asked the DM if I could use my tail reaction on someone else to give them an AC bonus. DM says yes. So I swing my tail out to protect Fighter from the worst of the attack. After this happened, it was revealed that the reason Bloodhunter was going against my plan was not because they were bad plans, but because they directly went against his secret motivation to betray the party and help the BBEG, which was a goddess of ice and destruction. Why would he want to do this? Absolutely no clue. Okay, I have a... Where the hell is the DM stepping into this to try to address this? Also, is DM allowing Bloodhunter just to completely betray the party and just turn against them to align with the BBEG? Unless you specifically talk with the party and like with players ahead of time that this is something that can actually happen as part of session 0, then this feels very left field and very out of nowhere. This is one of the situations where the Bloodhunter specifically wants to separate from the party because they're choosing to align themselves with the BBEG and become a member of, I guess, the BBG armies. This is weird as hell. Where's the DM to put a stop to this? Also, why is the DM just allowing the guy to attack his friendly party members because he wants to align himself with BBEG out of nowhere? Maybe that's something he planned to do for a while. I feel like this Bloodhunter and the rest of the party do not mesh. There's definitely something going on. I wish we could get some more takes from the rest of the party because I'm curious to see what they think, especially what the DM is even thinking. Why is the DM allowing this guy just to create a schism from the party and attack friendlies? Why is he allowing PvP? Why is PvP allowed? Where's the DM for this? Where's the DM? After this happened and Bloodhunter made a new character, it's just the same character again but with a different hair color and class, the DM had a convo with Bloodhunter saying that if he went against what the party wanted again, he'd be removed from the game, and Bloodhunter agreed. The final nail in the coffin happened fairly recently. As the party was traveling, we got word that the goddess of ice and destruction was going to attempt to fire a massive magic beam at the location of a very important NPC we needed. So we did everything we could to deflect the magic blast and succeeded. The DM gave Bloodhunter the ability to choose where it goes. Bloodhunter then chose for it to hit where the important NPC is. The DM starts to describe what happens and I speak up. Wait, what? Went through all that, you're just going to blow him up anyway? That's bullcrap. Well, I rolled a d2 and that's what it landed on. No. Don't blame the dice. You made this decision. Either make a new one or I'm letting someone else decide where it goes. Okay, fine. Let someone else do it then. The fact that the DM allowed this guy to choose where this thing is. The fact this DM... Why do the Bloodhunter? Why are you allowing the Bloodhunter to make a decision on where this thing goes? Just deflect it back or make it go somewhere else. Why are you allowing the Bloodhunter? Why are you cool with just Bloodhunter's decision? Just narrating. All right, Bloodhunter, where you wanted to go? Oh, to that NPC? Okay, guys. Well, unfortunately, because this Bloodhunter decided to be a piece of crap, just absolute nuisance, we're gonna go ahead and have the magic missile blast thing still had the important NPC anyway. Thanks, Bloodhunter, for ruining the game. I don't understand why this guy is not out of the game already. Clearly, he doesn't mesh with anything that else the rest of the party wants to do. I don't understand what's going on, honestly. Me and Fighter decided to send the blast to a far-off corner of the map that we thought had no people in it. I did not roleplay my anger with Bloodhunter because in character, he would have no idea he attempted to do this. This was my last straw when it came to me, the DM, and the rest of the players. The DM removed him from the game and was replaced later on by a new player. According to the other players who have played with him before, he acts like this in every single game. Same character, same selfish attitude, same issue with every campaign he plays in. This is the first time posting here, so if it gets a long one or it's not very good of a story. But thank y'all anyway for letting me post this story. I'm glad you have a problem player that is clearly a problem that's removed out of the game before it becomes a total shit show. Like, it's still pretty kind of a crapshoot game anyway because the guy is literally going against everything else the party wants to do and is actively betraying the party as well. I'm happy the DM stepped in. I'm happy that the rest of the players made themselves fully heard. I'm glad the players were vocal about this problem player becoming a problem and that this wasn't just never talked about. One of the biggest issues that I've seen in RPG horror stories whenever there's a problem player is that the problem player's behavior is just never addressed. It's always just kind of like, well, whatever, hopefully gets better, haha, I don't want to rock the boat kind of situation, and that nobody talks about it. DM never brings it up. The problem player doesn't care about it, continues becoming a problem, and nobody voices their complaint about it or makes themselves heard when it comes to being a problem. In a situation, however, everybody's aware that the problem player is being a problem. DM actually talks to the problem player, gets him to make a new character. It's weird that the guy just constantly makes the same character over and over thinking that it's going to work, but if that's a character he wants to play, clearly there's a playstyle difference. The guy doesn't want, the guy's not not great to play in a party if that's how he's going to play in a more selfish way. So I don't understand why he wants to play TTRPGs if he's not going to be a party member. Maybe a different system might be better for him. Something that's a little bit more, I don't know, solo. Maybe a video game might work him better. Maybe there's a TTRPG out there that's more competitive for him that he should try instead of D&D, because D&D is kind of a cooperative experience. It's very modular, so you can tweak the experience to be whatever you want it to be, but I feel like at its core, it's a very cooperative experience. It sort of kind of needs the party to stay together as a cohesive unit and play together well. Otherwise, it becomes a major hassle and you have splitting of the party and a lot of other issues that can happen. But in this situation, I'm glad things worked out and the problem player was addressed before it became a complete disaster. I'm kind of pissed the guy just decided to be a dick either way. Seriously, completely unfair to the rest of the people that just want to play and have a good time. And with that, that's going to be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales tomorrow. Bye-bye.